great to be back at Roots, and it's great to see so many people in this room. My first DEF CON was DEF CON 4. I've spoken here for 21 straight years. I love it when I'm introduced. You're going to think he's crazy, but he's not. You shouldn't really need that disclaimer at this point in life, but I still do, because some of the edgy subjects that I address do require reframing what you think. And above all, what I want to talk about, especially you younger people, is how to think about really tough stuff. Okay. What you're looking at there are genuine pictures taken from an Air Force base of what we call UFOs. I just want you to look at it because these are genuine pictures taken at an Air Force base of what we call UFOs. That's what this talk is about, how to find out the truth and who to trust in your search for the truth. Here's another picture to show you the glowing ionization phenomena a little more clearly. This was taken in the 1940s in Salem, Massachusetts by a US Coast Guard man who saw this out the window. But it also may be a reflection of four lights in the window through which he was taking the photograph. So while that is in fact the same external image, similar to the genuine photograph, I can't assure you that this is a genuine photograph. Today especially, the more spectacular the photographs, the more we doubt that they are real, because so much is able to be done technologically. And in order to determine the reality of a photograph or a videotape, you need the kind of people I've talked to at NSA and CIA who do that kind of analysis. So the first lesson is, seeing is not always believing. Seeing is always an opening to believing in something that may or may not be true. And the hard work of finding out what is true begins then, it doesn't end. I want to make the point that UFOs have been successfully debunked for many, many years. This is a genuine headline from the Washington Post in July of 1952. Now, you cannot imagine the Washington Post running this headline today, because the whole subject of UFOs, hence the reference to "are they crazy," has been a cultural, social, and deliberate execution of a policy and plan from the 1950s forward. So this incident is very dramatic. Over 2 weekends in July 1952, so many UFOs appeared over Washington, D.C., including over the Capitol and the White House and so on. And so many people saw them just from the street, from the ground, as well as jets scrambled from 3 surrounding bases to pursue them, as well as on radar from 2 stations at least, that so many people called the Pentagon to find out what it was, that it shut down the switchboard. That was alarming, because in 1952, the Cold War was just cranking up, and it became clear that the UFO phenomena, which was spreading across the country, could be manipulated and used by the Soviet Union to cover an attack or spoof an attack for some other ulterior purpose, including social engineering. And so a meeting was held in 1973 with the US Air Force and the CIA, which was a new institution then, and others, to decide what to do. And the policy they formulated had 2 things. One, we know they're real, they said very clearly. We know they're real. Too many credible people have seen what we thought were incredible things. So we need to do the research that we can from the inside, but secretly, on what makes these go and where they come from and how they operate. The other prong was to debunk or settle down the population by ridiculing and explaining away every sighting which has been maintained, including through silence, for a long, long time. So this incident, I could show you many more headlines that occurred across the country because it was news. But it didn't stay news long because they used the media to execute their policies. Okay, this is what happened to media coverage. You just saw real coverage. This is what happened. This is from the National Enquirer. Space aliens drained my blood and filled my veins with a mysterious yellow fluid, says shaken steelworker. And the alien who so theoretically did that is pictured there. You can only see so many of these false documents in tabloids and in the grocery stores. They sink in and you start to believe them. The people I know at NATO who study Russian propaganda have to be debriefed in turn, because even though they know they're reading propaganda for the purpose of analyzing it, they start to believe what they read because the brain cannot help but take in and believe what it sees. But news still appeared because you couldn't totally discount it, so you just ignored it or rejected it. These are 4 people in the Navy who observed on radar a flying saucer which others saw with their eyes, and they tracked it. A group of us got together to try to do some serious study of this subject, and you can come up and look at the book later if you want. It's called UFOs in Government. We worked for 5 years to produce it, but it's based on 50 years of research and thousands of documents. We have nearly 1,000 footnotes, which you can look at to see how thorough we were, and every single footnote points to a government document or a primary source. There's nothing speculative about the phenomena in the book. It is about the policies of the US government from the 1940s through the 1980s, and that's the basement in which we worked when we met to discuss what we were doing. Okay, now I'm switching subjects to biohacking. About 20 years ago, biology began to explode with the advances we made in genomics, in evolutionary biology, and in molecular biology. It's a fascinating field, and just like computing, it is based on informatics. It is information. It is coded information in incredibly complex systems that result in us. Just a collection of 20-something chromosomes in a single cell, in an egg, in a nucleus, become us. This is an incredibly complex emergent property of the evolutionary process. Naturally, young people, as the prices of doing the work have gone down, want to do biohacking. Buttermind, Seth Roberts, the quantified self, he did a Buttermind experiment. He became convinced that eating lots and lots of butter, because the vitamins in it would alter his eyesight in a way that would enable him to see infrared. Unfortunately, he died of a heart attack. So don't eat tons of butter to see what it will do. And the first rule is don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. And if you don't know if what you're going to do or want to do is stupid, talk to knowledgeable people. In the 21 years that I've been coming to DEF CON, everything I know about what goes on here has been taught to me by the smart people. When I wanted to investigate UFOs at the top level, it was joining a team of the very best researchers. Doing it alone is impossible in any complex domain. We need a collaboratory environment like this. A number of years ago, a guy named Dr. Paul Urita and his colleagues at the University of Wisconsin did some really important and wonderful studies, and one of the things they invented was called the feel-safe belt. They put magnets on the back of a volunteer and spliced it directly into his nervous system by going through the spine. Now the brain will take whatever inputs you give to it and try to make sense of them, even if it hasn't seen them before. So what impulses it was getting from that experiment were electromagnetic signals that determined where the currents in the Earth's electromagnetic field were located. And after time, as he got used to it, he became able to know exactly where he was, always and intuitively, by just kind of listening for that sixth sense that they had created. When they took off the belt after 6 months, he felt like he had lost one of his senses. He always knew where true north was. And when he rode his bike, he discovered how wiggly and waggly the paths around his city were, because he loved knowing the additional information that came in through his senses. What I'm showing you is what's now available pretty cheaply. You put that band around your leg and it has sensors which do exactly the same thing. It starts with an experiment that sounds exotic, and pretty soon it's commercial, and pretty soon the prices are down. So if you want to learn to detect the electromagnetic field by not splicing it into your nervous system, but wearing that on the leg and getting the sensations that determine that, and allowing your brain over time to detect those sensations and make sense of them, this is now available to you. So biohacking, like UFO studies, is full of exciting and interesting things to do, but you have to do it right.